Hello, my name is Miss Jones. I teach elementary school math, and welcome to my channel, Miss Math Jones. Today, we're going to be working on our third grade Eureka Module 5, Lesson 7 homework. The objective for the homework is to build non-unit fractions. So a non-unit fraction is a fraction that does not have a 1 in the numerator or the top. And we're going to build those non-unit fractions that are less than 1 whole, and we're going to build them from unit fractions. So basically, we're going to be adding fractions that have a 1 in the numerator or at the top and making bigger fractions with them, but not bigger than a whole. Sounds like a lot, but it's not. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's take a look at number 1. Number 1 says, complete the number sentence. Estimate to partition each strip equally. Write the unit fraction inside each unit and shade the answer. Then write the fraction as a sum of unit fractions. Sounds like a lot, but it's not really. Let's take it one step at a time, okay? So let's look at A. A wants us to display or show 2/3. So first, we're going to partition or divide the rectangle into thirds. So we need 2 lines. Let's put one here and one here. Now, it's partitioned or divided into thirds. Now we're going to write our unit fractions. Those are fractions with a 1 in the numerator or a 1 at the top. We're going to write 1/3 in each part. So we're going to write 1/3 here, 1/3 here, and 1/3 here. So make sure you have your rectangle partitioned into thirds, so 3 parts, and then you write the unit fraction 1/3 in each of the 3 parts. Now, it asks us to shade the fraction that's shown. So we need to shade 2/3. So shade 1/3, shade another third. Because, and above it, we're going to write these equations, okay? So what we just did was we added 1/3 plus 1/3. And 1/3 plus 1/3 equals 2/3. So we're going to write 2/3 next to A. Now you may want to pause your video to make sure that your paper looks exactly like mine. Now let's go ahead and look at B. B wants us to display or show 5/7. So first, we're going to partition or divide the rectangle across from B into 7ths. To do that, we need 6 lines. So let's put a line about here, here. It's 3 lines. Let's see, 4 lines, 5 lines, 6 lines. So 6 lines should give us 7 sections. Okay, try to make them as even as possible so that each section is about the same size. Now, we need to write the unit fraction of 1/7 in each section because each section is worth 1 out of the 7 pieces. So let's go ahead and write 1/7 in each section. Go ahead and do that now. We're going to write 1/7 in each section. 1/7 in each of the 7 sections. 1/7 in each section. Now, you should have 1/7 written in each section. Now, once we do that, we're supposed to shade the fraction that's shown, which is 5/7. So, how many 7ths do we need to shade? Right, 5 of them. So, we're going to shade in 5 of the 7ths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've shaded in 5 of the 7s. Now, we're supposed to write an equation that shows a fraction as a sum of unit fractions. So that means that we're adding the unit fractions to show what fraction is represented here. So let's add the unit fraction so that we can show 5/7. So we're adding the sum of the unit fractions, okay, to show 5/7. So that's 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7 plus 1/7 equals 5/7. And then we're going to write 5/7 right here next to the equal sign by letter B. Now you may want to pause the video so that you can go ahead to make sure everything for letter B is written down correctly. Okay, let's look at letter C. Letter C wants us to display 3/5. Well, first we have to partition or divide our rectangle across from letter C into fifths. So since it's fifths, we're going to need 4 lines. So let's draw our lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we drew 4 lines, but that gave us 5 sections or 5 pieces. Now this whole is now divided into fifths. Now we need to use our unit fractions to label each fifth. So we're going to write 1/5 in each of the 5 parts. So let's go ahead and write our fifths in each section. We're going to write the unit fraction of 1/5 in each section. The unit fraction because it's a or 1 unit piece, 1 piece, unit fraction. And make sure we're writing 1/5 in each part. Now that you have your rectangle partitioned into fifths, you have the unit fraction of 1/5 written into each part. Now you have to shade in 3/5. So how many of these fifths are we shading? That's right, 3. Shade 1, 2, 3. We just shaded in 3/5. Now we're going to write the fraction as a sum of unit fractions, which means we're going to add 3 1/5 together to equal 3/5. So let's write our equation above our rectangle. Okay, so 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. And we're going to go ahead and write 3/5 over here next to the equal sign by letter C. Now you may want to, again, go ahead and pause that video so that you can make sure that you have all of your information written down for letter C. Now let's move on to D. D wants us to demonstrate or show or display 2/8. All right, well, first we have to partition or divide this rectangle into eighths. So since we're partitioning or dividing it into eighths, then we need 7 lines. So let's go ahead and draw our 7 lines to partition this rectangle into eighths. So here's our first line, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines, 5 lines, 6 6 lines, 7 lines. Okay, so you should have 7 lines, which should have given you 8 sections or 8 equal parts. So this whole rectangle is broken down into eighths now. So now we need to write our unit fraction of 1/8 in each part that it represents. So each section is 1/8 of this rectangle. So let's go ahead and write our 1/8 unit fractions in each section. We're writing 1/8 into each section because each section is 1/8 of the whole rectangle. Now that you have your unit fractions of 1/8 written into each section, it tells us that we need to shade in 2/8. So how many of these eighths do we need to shade in? That's right, 2. So we're going to shade in 1, 2. We shaded in 2/8. Now we have to write the fraction as a sum of unit fractions. Sum means we have to add it, okay? So let's go ahead and add our 1/8 together that we shaded to equal 2/8. So that's 1/8 plus 1/8 equals 2/8. 1/8 plus 1/8 equals 2/8. And go ahead and make sure you write 2/8 over there next to the letter D, next to the equal sign. Now you may want to pause your video to make sure that number 1, letters A, B, C, and D are complete. Make sure you have your unit fractions written in. Make sure all of your rectangles are partitioned correctly. Make sure you have your fractions shaded correctly. And make sure you wrote your equations. So if you need to pause your video to do that now, go ahead and do it. All right, let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 says, Mr. Abney bought 6 kilograms of rice. He cooked 1 kilogram of it for dinner. This is a word problem, which means we need to draw some type of model to make sure that we can correctly answer the question. So that's the information they gave us. He bought 6 kilograms of rice. He cooked 1 kilogram of it for dinner. What fraction of rice did he cook for dinner? Now, you don't necessarily have to draw bags of rice, right? It's fractions, and I like working with rectangles for fractions. Unless they tell you it's a pizza, then we have to draw a circle, but I really like working with rectangles. So I'm going to use little rectangles to represent each kilogram of rice. So he had 6 kilograms, so I'm going to draw 1 kilogram rectangles, and I'm going to use 6 of them, right? So let's go ahead and draw 6 rectangles, and we're going to put 1 kilogram in each one. Okay, so at this point, you should have 6 rectangles, and you just write 1 kilogram in each rectangle. So now, this fraction strip, which we just created a fraction strip, this fraction strip represents our 6 kilograms of rice. Now, it says that he cooked 1 kilogram of it for dinner. Now, you can shade in 1 kilogram, okay? And letter A says, what fraction of the rice did he cook for dinner? Well, how many do you have shaded in? 1, the one that he cooked, right? So he cooked 1 out of the total that he bought was what? That's right, 6. So he cooked 1 kilogram out of the 6 total kilograms that he bought. So the fraction of rice that he cooked for dinner was 1/6. Now let's look at B. B says what fraction of the rice was left. Now, you can circle what was left as you count it so that you can see what was left. So, let's see what he had left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He had 5 kilograms left. So my top number, or my numerator, is going to be 5. He had 5 kilograms, my fraction bar, out of, how many did he buy? That's right, 6. So he had 5 kilograms out of the 6 total kilograms that he bought, which means the fraction of rice that was left was 5/6. Now, go ahead and make sure to pause the video so that you can write everything down that you need on your paper so that your homework is correct. Or if you're just checking your work against mine, pause the video to make sure everything's correct and that you understand. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 should look very similar to your homework from lesson 6. We had one that was similar, but this is just a little bit more than what you did the last time, okay? So it says to fill in the chart. Now, in the sample, right, the sample is the very first one, it's filled in for you. So it basically shows you what to do. So let's look at the sample. In the sample, the very first section says total number of equal parts. There are 6 total parts. Doesn't ask if it's shaded or unshaded. How many parts? 6. Now, the next section asks the total number of shaded equal parts. Well, if you count them, there are 5 shaded parts. Now again, this word unit fraction. A unit fraction is a fraction with a 1, always a 1 in the numerator. The numerator is the top number. The bottom number, or the denominator, is the total number of pieces, or total number of equal parts that the whole is made of. So the unit fraction, which means 1 unit of this shape, would be 1/6. And the fraction shaded is how many parts are shaded out of the 6 total pieces that you have, which is 5/6. Now that we've talked about the sample, let's look at letter A. All right, so I'm looking at letter A, and we need to count the total number of equal parts. How many parts is A divided into? If you said 4, you're correct. Model A is divided into 4 equal parts. Now, how many of those parts are shaded? If you said 3, you're a rock star. There are 3 parts shaded. Now, they want us to name the unit fraction that's represented in Model A. That means that how much is 1 unit? How much is 1 part of Model A worth? Okay? It's broken into 4 equal parts, which means the unit fraction is 1/4. Now, they ask us what fraction is shaded, all right? So, how many pieces are shaded? That's going to be our numerator, or top number. 3. 3 pieces are shaded. 3 pieces out of how many total pieces? 3 pieces out of 4 total pieces are shaded. So the fraction shaded is 3/4. Now you may want to pause the video to check to make sure your answer matches mine. Okay, let's look at letter B. This is a funny looking shape, but a shape nonetheless. Now, how many total equal parts is Model B partitioned into? Go ahead and count them. If you got 9, then you are correct. There are 9 equal parts that make up the model in letter B. Now we need to count how many of those little pieces are shaded. You said 6, you're absolutely correct. 6 of those pieces are shaded. Now, what unit fraction would represent one of these pieces? Because a unit is 1. So one of these pieces is worth how much? 1/9. Now it asks us, what fraction is shaded? Well, again, how many pieces are shaded? 6. 6 out of how many total pieces? 9. 6 out of 9 pieces are shaded. So the fraction that's shaded is 6/9. Now, you may need to pause your video so that you can check your work against mine. Let's take a look at C. How many equal parts is C made of? If you said 7, you're absolutely correct. Now, how many of those pieces are shaded? That's right, 4 pieces are shaded. Now, how much is one unit, one piece of this fraction worth? 1/7. That would be our unit fraction, 1/7. Each piece is 1/7. Now, what's the fraction that shows us how much is shaded? Well, again, how many pieces are shaded? 4. 4 pieces are shaded. 4 pieces out of how many total? 7. So 4 out of the 7 total pieces are shaded. Or you read that as 4/7. Now, you may need to pause the video so that you can check your work against mine. Let's look at letter D. How many total pieces is letter D made of? If you said 6, you're absolutely correct. Now, of those 6 pieces, how many pieces are shaded? That's right, 3. Now, what's the unit fraction that represents model D? Which means how much is a unit or a piece, one piece of model D worth? That's right, 1/6. All right, and what fraction represents the actual pieces that are shaded? Now again, how many pieces are shaded? 3. 3 out of how many total pieces? 6. So you read that as 3/6 are shaded. Now you may want to pause the video so that you can check your work against mine. Congratulations, Lesson 7 homework is now complete. Give yourself a pat on the back. As always, I hope this video has helped you to complete your homework and help you to understand it a little bit better. I hope you have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're watching the video, and I will see you next time. Bye.